so much.
I feel like, no, okay, I feel like this is actually you leading into your own interview, though, because when we were in New Orleans, you were having all kinds of feels about, like, grad school.
Yes.
And we're going to get to that, right? But, like,
some of the stuff you said there is, like, the stuff that I have to remind myself
yeah,
of.
Okay, so I feel like expanding your capacity is also kind of, like, what brought us, like, to the other side of the country, right? There are ways in which we had to grow ourselves, but also, and this is why I want you to, like, tell them about all the things that you do, because for me, like, I got to know Tiara in this very kind of, like, finite way of, like, here's this person that I love. I met her at a party.
I just know I love her. And
I love her, and I met her at parties, and I don't even do parties like that, right? But I feel like when I think about people who expand their capacity or who are trying to, like, embrace their, like, full range of all the things they could possibly do, that's what I see in you, and I really love that. Now let them see it. It is a reflection.
Honestly, truly, because I look at the ways in which you navigate being in the academy and being outside of it, and I was like, that is like aspiration, you know? Like this, when they do this bullshit around, like, what are the pathways beyond the professoriate? Your
entire life is a pathway.
The entire, like, you think there was nothing before this?
Well, the academy will make you think that, and we can talk, right? Because that thing that I say is like the trick, the scheme, the grand, like, okie doke of the academy is that they get you in there and they're like, we're going to make you feel terrible, like you didn't know anything before you got here. And that's them teaching you, right? But really, it's just an abusive relationship because they're now like, oh, we've ruined you for anyone else. We're the only one that wants you. And also, you owe us everything. So just, like, hop through some more hoops so that we can give you tenure.
And also, but there's no tenure.
And there's no job security. So
here you go, adjunct.
Yeah. But, sorry, guys. We can talk about grad school if you want. This isn't even
this is not what that's supposed to be.
But tell them what you're doing in grad school. Tell them about that, I guess.
Oh, okay. So,
you're like, no.
Absolutely not. Just like exercising poison. But honestly, my work is all about Black women's mourning practices, and this is another thing I found out. I was like, wait, you did Black women's mourning? What? So my work is Black women's mourning practices. What is how Black women mourn, how they take to the public space to mourn, and also where they find joy. And that's the spaces that I really try to create too, which is like Black women have the right to mourn and feel joy on their own terms. And so that's what I do in my work and my
Stop looking behind the camera. We're a real production team.
Am I perfect?
Yeah.
That's it. Where do I?
This is exciting. This is exactly what they signed up for. It's not. I'm sorry. Please don't unfollow.
Sorry.
But, like, you know.
Thank you for your patience.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what I try and do in my academic work. That's what I try and do in my creative space. That is the space that I like to hold for people too, like be your full selves. And that's really what Hella Brunch showed me, that people can come up and show up and do that. There was a moment where I was like, let me figure out how I can make you some money and us somebody. And then that fell through, but here we are together.
Yeah.
And so
I feel like the mourning is also part of, like, the twinness, though, right? Because, well, y'all know, because you follow me, that I'm always in some feels, or, like, helping you sort through some feels, or just bringing up some feels you didn't want to discuss anyway.
Hashtag Taurus Moon.
Hashtag Taurus Sun, Taurus Moon, Virgo Rising. But that's, like, yes, in my, like, actual academic work, I talk all about, like, what it takes to actually, like, have people change, right? Like, my writing is about personal transformation. My research is literally, like, Black folks trying to think through what revolution can look like. But what I found in that, right, is that
sad.
Do you know what it feels like to be a person trying to usher in like your own personal transformation, and then like the personal transformation of others who are like also like suffering from all kinds, or like suffering under the pressures of all kinds of systemic issues? That shit is sad.
It's fucking sad.
It's hard.
I said when I did my written exams over that period of time, just a few days period of time, just sitting with the work, I was like, wow, I really have to sit with the fact that my work is like I have to do some like melancholic readings of my work.
But that's my favorite.
I'm like, what does it mean to like sit with melancholy?
Yeah.
But also feel it deeply.
And I'm saying sit with it because it's on you. It's on you. I'm saying sit with it because it doesn't give you like a choice, right?
You know?
Well, I feel like that kind of actually brings us to the fact that we're like shooting live from Emory's campus today.
Also, we kind of just found our way into this very beautiful hall, which we decided to just go ahead and take a squat in.
How did you, well, folks know that you now like have all this academic work around this, but and if you're fine sharing any of this, I feel like we've talked through a large part of, so part of this I see is just like Black girl life in the academy, right? I feel like you're going to share things, and I know because whenever I share anything else about like academy life, it's like, yes, +1, +1,000, like we feel that. But I feel like you and I have talked through like, or I've at least seen you work through lots of real feelings around being like, I'm from like the Bay of the Bay. I have literally moved my life across into this space. It's so very different.
3,300 miles.
Yes, 3,300 miles away. It's so very different from the place that has like held you and made you you. How are you even like working through those things?
I think what I had, so first semester here, so the thing about Emory is that we're in Atlanta, but like not in Atlanta.
No, this part, this don't look like the rest of it.
Atlanta. This is not Atlanta.
All right. I saw the houses.
Right. And I've been here since 2017. Since then, there has not even been the potential for another Black person in my department. So I've really been navigating the space.
Can you tell them what your department is?
Yeah, so my department is comparative literature, and it's a lot of white. It requires multiple languages, things like this. It's really theory focused, but I am the only Black body in my entire department, and there's not been any inclination that that's going to change, considering since my recruitment year there has not been another Black person who's even been recruited. So my first semester, I didn't really talk. I sat in class where, race and literary theories was never brought up, and then I wrote a paper using my favorite novel, The Bluest Eye, thinking about what happens when someone who's considered a non-subject begins to speak using this linguist, this white linguist, y'all don't need to know who it is, but the nature of the pronoun and who is the third person, and is the third person even a person at all, and thinking of Pecola Breedlove. And I sat in this meeting with the instructor of the class, the professor, and he was like, wow, Tiara, you're just so polite. You never even brought up race in class. And it was from then I was like, never again will I be called polite. So essentially what I've been doing is like, if I'm uncomfortable, then you're going to be uncomfortable too, and we're just going to sit with this discomfort. And that is just the place that I sit in, I live in a place of discomfort, and that's how I operate in my classroom too, like from a place of discomfort and like moving through it. And so how has it been? So the thing is, coming from the Bay to Atlanta, there are many things. Keeping in mind that I also live 5 minutes away from Emory, so again, I'm in Atlanta, but not in Atlanta. But I'm from Richmond, California, and I went to Berkeley High. I went to Mills College, and
I want to make some Oakland noises, but I know the Oakland folks will watch, and then they'll be like, "You're not really from Oakland," so I'll just be like,
but this is exactly it, right?
Oakland, like, Oakland against everything.
I'm from the Bay. My dad's family's in Bayview Hunters Point. My mom's in Richmond, California. All my folks are in Oakland. So there's something about like Bay is home to so many people, but my folks have been there since they migrated from Louisiana, Arkansas, and Mississippi. And so the Bay ended up becoming like this really transient space for like a lot of young cutesy pop creatives, and it becomes home for them. But because of the conditions there, it makes it really hard to be there. And this is why I'm like, yeah, we can't live in a hopeless place because people have to go. And so I knew that I wanted to come south. I knew that I wanted to migrate south. I also was like, Kholi's moving to Atlanta, and I'm going to follow her.
I remember I saw it on Facebook. I felt like I was following you. I saw it on Facebook, and I was like, hey, I'm moving to Atlanta. Hella excited. She was like, okay, girl.
That's so funny because I thought you were like, this bitch a little crazy.
No.
So I came here, and what I appreciate about being in Atlanta is like the flexibility and movement. Like I can just come to you, right? Yeah. And wait, like y'all know LA is a different state. So, you just
LA is a different state than Northern California.
Exactly.
It's a whole different thing. I want to give them more context because I feel like if they don't know California, then they don't understand California, right? So like where we live is obviously Northern California.
San Francisco Bay Area.
Home of very large trees, beautiful ocean and mountains at the same time.
Where else? Forests,
the
mountains,
most fantastic,
ocean.
well, now in North Carolina. The most fantastic place you could be in, right? But when Tiara's talking about like the conditions not being like good for folks of color, right? Like especially QT Proc folks who come like seeking some sort of, I don't know what brings us to the Bay. Like those of us who there's an energy of the Bay, right?
I mean,
that's
the
like
amount of like queer arts is like
very true.
Think
very
of like
true.
what the folks are doing there. It's like something happens.
Yes, but then also something happens that is like
grind.
all but it's like grind, but like nothing's happening, right? And because of racism, because of like nonprofit organizations that are not doing anything, and because of the cost of living, right? So like before I left, literally friends of mine were losing their homes like without 30 days notice in that way because literally their landlords were just like selling them out from up under them. And so part of what was like, I want to move back home wasn't just about like, oh, I'm trying to be near my family, which I was, right? Because California is several different states, even though it's one state, like you can be there and never go anywhere.
Right.
You can be there and never leave where you are. And I miss that kind of like freedom of movement of the East Coast, right? I can be like in North Carolina, I could be in Philadelphia, I could be in New Jersey, I could be in New York, I could be in you know what I mean?
And I never had that before because up until 2017 I never lived anywhere other than the Bay.
Yeah.
So like
bless you.
this I mean, but
who?
Why? What?
Like,
I didn't even know that there were landlocked cities. Like, come on. I'm like surrounded by water all the time.
Yeah.
But I get here and I do have like this newfound movement. It's kind of great.
But I feel like, and not even but, and I feel like movement was a large part of like why I needed to come back home, and also like needing to be in a place where I could literally see like queer and people of color like able to excel and thrive. That's a thing that really matters to me, which is why at first I thought I was moving to Atlanta, and then I was just like, okay, North Carolina is also a place that does that. But that kind of like movement, that kind of freedom has been in like a number of ways a part of like, this is how I'm taking care of myself after the unnamed hopeless place that we don't speak of. So you're here,
I'm here.
You have some freedom, a bit more, but you're also in grad school. And now that I'm back in it, I'm like, oh, how does this work? Also, full-time job, also, right? And there's a kind of way in which the things that we're in are places that are like joy, but also places where we're doing really difficult, like uncomfortable kinds of work for ourselves. So I'm not like throwing out this term of like, how are you staying well, or like, what are you doing for self-care? But I mean, like, literally, how are you caring for yourself?
How do I do it? I limit. So the conversation that we had in the car, where we were having to, was it the cafe in Louisiana, in New Orleans? I can't remember. Where you were like, you chose to be in this space, and you gotta use it for what it gives you, right? So things that I've gotten here, things that you've
acquired for yourself,
things that I've acquired for myself being in this place. I have traveled significantly. I have, because nobody knows what the fuck I'm doing, I do what the fuck I want, essentially.
True. What are you talking about? Feelings?
Oh, right. Black?
You sad?
Like, what? Black women? Okay, sure. And so I get to do that. I get to do that in the classroom. But, like, what brings me joy, honestly, is that when I leave here, I just go to the studio. I go to the studio. I am, if some of y'all follow me on Not Your Average House Psych,
you're like, I'm a star. For some of y'all, in case you didn't know.
So you did put it. You tagged it.
It's true.
So,
I mean, I did have people saying that they were going to follow me.
Yeah, and people follow me. So like, if you follow me, Not Your Average House Psych.
Look at that. Stay active, guys. We need you for this.
I'm a dancer. I'm a pole dancer, baby pole dancer, not so baby in other ways, but. That is really, I mean, I already had a system set in place before I got here, because my homie was like, you have to follow this woman named The Cream Show, who's at Dance for One. And I was like, yes, her. I'm going wherever.
Oh, you made the plan before you got here.
Yeah.
Okay, that's important.
So,
that is a part of taking care of yourself.
I made a fucking plan, like, okay, so Cream is at Dance for One. I'm going there. That's where I'm going. And, I did, and I started there. It was probably as soon as my mom left, my first week of being here, I went to the studio, and I've been going to the studio ever since. Things that I had, when I would get, like, really stressed with this place, when I was, like, ingesting the poison that this place can bring, I would sacrifice dance.
Yeah.
So, like, oh, I'm too busy. Oh, I like have to do this final. Oh, I have to do this, that, and the third, you know. Only to find like, well, dance is the only way that I can do this.
Yeah.
Honestly, because like it's something about, like you said, this place makes you feel crazy, like you're not good enough. Like this is the only place that you can be in, although we have no place for you. And dance, I found like if I couldn't see my growth here, just because it's not always an affirming place. What I could see in my dance and my movement is my growth there. And something about the ways in which I was like physically training my body, not just like what I'm looking for is like, what is my strength like? What is my confidence like? Somehow that translated into like the work that I was doing here. Where I was like less inhibited, right? It's like, okay, this moment where I'm like, it's just me and the mirror and the pole, right? And I'm just moving and I'm touching myself and I'm like feeling whatever I'm feeling here. And I just go and like get to pour that into my work. And so it's just like me and my work and the people that I choose to be around. But once I realized that dance couldn't be on the back burner, it was like, okay, well it makes it so I can do this thing.
Yeah.
And looking at myself in my videos is like, yes, I'm full of myself, but also
much growth, it's like you should get to feel that,
honestly. And it's like I look at the videos and I can see like, oh, me looking at where I've come is also part of like pedagogical practice.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like looking at lesson plans, reviewing lesson plans.
Yes.
You you just keep it going. And I mean, that is what I do. I found a little, and again, like with the caveat that this is in Atlanta, but not Atlanta. I've had trouble like really connecting with queer folks of color here, just because of like where I'm located.
It's also a little different than the Bay.
It's different. It's a different kind. And again, like before moving here, I had been nowhere for a significant amount of time than the Bay, so there's like things that are just really unfamiliar for me as like someone who predominantly dates other femmes, and like genderqueer folks. It's a different kind of navigation. What I did find, and what I did find when you invited me to NOLA, knowing that my people are from Louisiana, and particularly New Orleans and Baton Rouge, when I got there, I was like, oh no, I'm supposed to be in the South. It's just not Atlanta that's my home. Absolutely, like this choice to move to the South, kind of like you're like, I'm moving to Atlanta, but no, I'm actually going to North Carolina.
I'm actually going home.
It was like, I knew I needed to be in the South. I thought that I needed to be, Atlanta was kind of like the place Emory offered me the money to be here. Shout out to PhD programs. Also, that's there are ways in which it's still not designed for poor folks.
I mean, it's not enough.
It's just never enough.
It's not enough. And thank you for not making us pay for school. Thank you for not making us pay for our own abuse.
Exactly. So
I want to touch back on your idea or your mentioning of like pole being the thing that like you have to have, like you can't actually do the rest of it without that. Because I feel like maybe this time last year, I met my now friend Sarah Frick in Charleston at Good Fest, and I immediately bonded with her. We are very different people. If any of you follow Sarah, she runs the Works Charleston. She looks like yoga. I don't know what to say. She looks like an exercise right now, and I love that. I love that about her. And the thing that I got when I was like, oh, we're each other's people, right? Is also she was just the thing I have to do every single day is sweat. It is my non-negotiable. And that language of non-negotiable was so useful to me in that moment. One, I completely identified with that because, y'all know I post all kinds of different workouts because I just can't stay with the same thing. But my non-negotiable is that I have to sweat. And I was like, thank you for giving that to me. So I don't have to feel any kind of way about did I run? Did I walk the dogs too long? Did I do whatever? It's just that I sweat. But, I also now know, right, that there are other things that have been my non-negotiables in life that for whatever reason the academy kind of separated me from, right? I'm a hardcore journaler. Was before some few years in the academy or what, just all kinds of things, right? Relationships, feelings around that, really being in a space where I was not being honest with myself. So how am I going to fill a journal with any kind of thing?
Yeah.
But now that I'm oh, I have this full-time job with Whole30. Shout out to y'all. Love it when you come through, I'm also in school at Wake Div. I'm also just trying to live life. I'm also trying to understand my own feelings and what is mine and what is other people's and how I'm going to be a good person. I'm oh, this is my non-negotiable. I need this journal because my head is crazy if I don't furiously write down every single day. It's just I'm so, you know what I mean? But it's just that motion. It's still movement. And I feel there's things now that are oh, I used to like to read, right? Before grad school, I loved to read. And now I'm
really take it away from me.
But now I'm still but can I find any joy in my homework, or can I at least fit some other book in or something? And I feel I find that reflection in other folks, but also with you sometimes, because you'll just be oh, what are you reading? Or I read this thing, blah blah blah, and I'm no, I didn't. No, I don't.
It's okay.
I'm reading
devoting a bibliography for when you're ready.
That's how I feel. But I'm saying all of these things because I feel like you have, and maybe you identify pole as like your most like consistent, non-negotiable. And I'm wondering if there's like any other things that you have to have. Because I feel like books are one of them. This is me trying to identify this.
Books are certainly one of them. What my therapist was like, Tiara, and she doesn't know that I'm a Taurus man, right? But she says, like, I feel like you have to take into account your leisurely time. And that's a non-negotiable. So I'll tell you what this is. It's me sending you an audio message saying like, but what about taking your time and like breakfast? Yeah. For me, it's like, oh, I need this moment to lay in my bed and feel the sun on my face. Even though I've been up since about 6:45.
Yes. But that's a new thing for like also, which is what, right? Especially for people who have been in school all their lives, right? You just like, where you have that built-in leisure and I'm like, nobody controls my time. But now that so many different things call for my time, it's really hard to be like, no, I am the kind of person who has to be awake from 6 to 9 a.m., maybe 10, without actually having a thing to do. Yeah. Yes.
And I think one of the things that really shifted things for me is when you posted that book, When and Why We Sleep.
Yes.
Yo.
Sorry.
Bro.
Sorry. We got hype and our production told us that we loud. Don't move your mic.
Sorry guys. And bro is like, there is just, society just isn't set up for the nocturnals for us.
Yeah.
But as long as you're getting your sleep, you're all good. And he's also a nocturnal. Yeah. And I really felt that because it was like, oh, there's no reason for me to be ashamed of how I sleep and how I don't sleep. Yeah. As long as I'm getting my sleep in. So
as long as you're doing what you need for yourself.
Right, exactly. And that also means like, it's okay that I don't follow other people's plans. It's okay that I don't get up and work from 9 to 5. First of all, I got out of nonprofit, so I didn't have to do that.
Don't shame us.
But no shame. But so non-negotiables for me too. Like I have not written in a very long time, and so and I am a writer. Shout out to Calling on Spirit. That happened a few years ago. That really just like gave me a beautiful space to work through my writing. But I stopped writing, and it was like my mom was like,
"But what's happening?"
So like, you just gonna
are you a writer?
Are you just gonna throw away writing like that?
Won't we do it?
Won't we do
for
it?
Anything, really. For anything that gets busy, anything that takes our attention. I'm like, oh, I don't have time to write. Are you a writer? Do y'all remember that Lil Wayne song when he'd be like, sorry, this is...
Go ahead.
He's like, aren't you a drug dealer? I don't think that you should do those things.
I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Don't do those things. But I think what you do plays through my head when I'm like not writing.
Aren't you a writer?
Yeah, then write.
So I recently started back Morning Pages, which has been really nice. And so to get my way, and
can you tell them what Morning Pages?
Yes. So Artist's Way, author, I cannot remember.
That's fine.
Right now. The Artist's Way. I haven't really read the book. I just got to the Morning Pages part.
You've got to be honest with yourself in this life.
So I've been doing those, and it's the idea that you get up and journal first in the morning. I don't always do it first in the morning because my little mind gets spinning, but I always come back to it. And what I recently did, which has been really helpful, is I bought a a little notebook, so
have one
I
of
feel
those.
like
Accomplished.
yes,
That's great.
And so that's really been a non-negotiable for me. And yeah, poll and journaling, non-negotiables, and
Yeah, same. I think journaling is definitely one for me, which I've actually chosen. So I've shared with some of you that, like, this year I decided, and you have to, I don't know how other people make these decisions, but sometimes all of my decisions have to be around the kind of person that I want to be, right? So I'm like, I have all these journals, and some of them, so many of them, not some of them.
Empty?
All of them are, hey, they're not empty,
but like,
they're not finished. It's like 14 pages. 30 pages out of 100. And I was like, literally like, I want to be the kind of person that finishes a journal. And I was just like, but who is that kind of person? Like, who has the time?
And
what are they doing? And I was like, no, you are that kind of person. And I was literally, I wrote in the journal, right? This must be the kind of person who literally writes all the things that they feel, who literally pays attention to everything that comes up for them, because what else would you be writing about for that many pages? Right. So saying that to myself, production, no, saying that to myself has really helped me like develop habits. And my boss has, that's such a strange thing for me to say now, but Melissa Urban has a podcast, who is my boss, guys, has a podcast on like, it's called, well, her larger podcast is called Do the Thing, which tells you how to do all kinds of things, right? But there's a specific one around like literally, you know, developing habits. And so she kind of also talks through these things of like, for her, it's like, oh, I want to be this kind of person, so I have to change all the things about me that are not like this person.
Yeah.
And it's wild. Anyways, I won't keep y'all forever because I want to just talk to Tiara about myself. But before we close up, because I feel like you're a wealth of like resources, we're going to do two things. Okay. This is like a lightning round, but it doesn't have to be lightning if it doesn't come fast. I want to know books. Yes, but like specific books. So for you, books on race. Okay. Go. What should we be reading?
You should be reading.
See?
Come on.
What should we be? I know that's such a big question, but right now,
you should definitely be reading, and all of this complexities, it's totally fine. I still don't get a lot of it. Is Christina Sharp's In the Wake on Blackness and Being, which I keep recommending to everybody. Yeah, at this point in my life, I consider myself a Sharpian and a wake worker. And I hope maybe one day she'll see this. Because that's what she is. So her theoretical framework is called wake work, and how do we, what she calls aspirate, annotate, and redact Black lives for the Black living, the Black dead and dying. What does it mean to breathe life back into the Black body? What does it mean to annotate Black life? And what does it mean to create new modes of writing and seeing? And like the work you do, the work that I hope to do, the work that my homies do are like wake work. And I love it. So Christina Sharp's In the Wake on Blackness and Being, and it's like in the wake of the planned disaster of the transatlantic slave trade.
I love planned disaster as language.
Planned disaster.
Yes. Yeah.
The planned disaster.
Wait, I was gonna gonna have a separate section on feelings, like books on feelings for you, but I feel like this is getting us into all of it. So books on race and feelings.
So that's that. Like that, you know, in the belly of the ship, in the hold of the ship. If we think of ourselves as being in it and kind of like existing in it as like wake as woke, but also like the hold as the belly of the ship holds us in some ways, but also what are the ways in which we're beholden to one another, which is like, this is what that is. And so, In the Wake on Blackness and Being, other books on race, Sadia Hartman's Lose Your Mother.
Actually.
Just basically
anything Hartman.
Anything Hartman, including Wayward Lives, which just came out this year.
Which I have not.
And I would say, like, I just finished, actually, Passed On African American Mourning Stories by Carla F.C. Holloway. Do you know this name?
Yeah, because Go ahead.
So I just finished that, and other thing, Monstrous Intimacies by Christina Sharp.
So also anything by Sharp.
Anything by Sharp.
Anything by Sharp.
Jennifer Nash, new stuff is coming out. Her Black Feminisms Reimagined just hit.
I just realized I'm going to ask Tiara to make us a list.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
No, this is good. No, and now I'm like, no, I really want this list.
So those are things on race that I'm currently reading. But you know, I get a lot of. I work with literature, so for me, fiction is an archive.
Yeah.
Theory is in fiction, so I read tons of Jesmyn Ward, who is just like thinking of Men We Read, and as a theoretical framework is just like, definitely read it. Everything by her. Edgewood Danticat.
Everything by
Danticat.
Yeah.
I make it and I've been doing this for some years now. I listen to Toni Morrison read her novels to me, which I think I told you about. I was like, how do you so Toni Morrison reads her novels, at least most of them, so I listen to those. But yeah, thinking about like what does fiction offer as kind of like how do we heal, and that's like literally it. Fiction is the archive. It's a different kind of archive, right?
Which is a whole other conversation, but it's a whole other conversation, but it's like why are we not listening to like what artists are telling us that they already know, what artists are already interrogating, what artists are already like, here are other options, because if we care so much about fiction, and it's like, well, we've already got all these tools, all these other options for alternative living and universe. Why are we not practicing those things? That's a whole other conversation. We will bring
you'll catch us again and again.
Catch us again and again.
Yeah, if only you could get on our audio messages.
I know. We could, if you want to subscribe.
You want to subscribe to our audio messages?
Subscribe.
Yeah.
I feel like, okay, so I want to leave with a big question, because I don't even know what you knew, I sent it to you. I don't even know like what these lives are going to turn into for real. I just like really sharing people with us, and I think we're doing this with the understanding, right? A part of my work is being like, yes, my voice matters. Yes, your voice matters. That's exactly why we're doing this. So what do you feel like the world should know? I know.
I mean, I say it over and over again, and this is me as like my little melancholic self, that Black folks have the right to mourn on their own terms. And in that, they get to derive pleasure and joy on their own terms. And honestly, that is just like, that's how spirit moves. So and we're doing that.
That's true.
So,
thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I will obviously tag Tiara, so you can follow her on both of her accounts if you want to, but like you're really missing out if you don't follow the both account. I'm trying to get her to merge them.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get us, we're just going to create.
How do we integrate? How do I as a Taurus moon, integrate? What is decompartmentalize?
Bye, y'all. I'm so sorry.